Nice to meet you.
I'm going to try and stop Piers from signing.
Okay then, so I'll speak to you a bit later on, yeah? Okay, lots of love, bye.
One.
You. So when did you get back from Romania?
2 days ago.
Hey, how you doing?
I've known Deepa since I was 18, right? So it's amazing to see her.
Does he look different?
I look better. Thank you. Well, oh, more handsome. And you've always been beautiful too.
We sort of built our own because I was never taught how to sign.
Yeah.
So we sort of grew up just signing together.
Yeah.
Because obviously I didn't see many other deaf children.
Yeah.
It was difficult when I met other people who were deaf because the way I signed it was difficult for them to understand.
Were there similarities between
Very
yours
similar.
and like,
Yeah. Mine was a more simple version, theirs was a more complicated version.
Yeah.
So
Do you remember any signs, anything that you used to sign, anything that was simple?
Dad.
Dad. Oh. Have you ever met a deaf person before?
yeah, in Birmingham, where Pierce and I worked together, I delivered a series of photography workshops with a deaf group.
I'm going to try and stop Pierce from signing. Oh, I don't mind. I want to communicate directly. Have you learnt sign?
Nothing.
Yeah, when I finish uni, I really want to learn to sign. I finish in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I finish uni. Because before then, my head has kind of been quite full. But now I finish uni, I really want to learn to sign so I can kind of communicate with Pierce's mum a bit more and his friends and...
1, 2, 2. Beat 2. Okay, 1. Oh!
If you have watched this programme and it has affected you, there is support information online at bslzone.co.uk/support.